all refueled and recharged, let's commence. For the next session, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gopal Parasnis. We're going to be having a session on navigating digital transformation and omni-channel support. A little bit about Mr. Gopal Parasnis. He's the Vice President and Global Head for Digital Transformation, BFSI and Tech Mahindra. With a profound interest in the transformative power of technology, Mr. Gopal Parasnis leverages over 24 years of experience in technology. His expertise spans hands-on work, consulting, project delivery, portfolio management, and people management, specializing in delivering large-scale transformative programs and shaping significant deals. Gopal focuses on advancing Infosys' digital practice within financial services, aiming to understand and navigate the ongoing digital revolution for client success. May I introduce to you Mr. Gopal Parasnis.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. After the lunch, so this is the first session. Hope you won't fall asleep. A minor correction, I was with Infosys for more than 2 decades, but now I am with Tech Mahindra for a couple of years now. So let me start with a thought which all of us have been hearing since our childhood, right? But is it entirely true? And here is a compelling other thought that has gained prominence over last several years. In fact, it has been there all the time, but it has definitely gained more importance over last few decades. Inventions and technological inventions specifically are also creating new necessities. And this is what we see when we see new technology getting adopted, disrupting the business models, creating new set of products and services, and also altering the expectations of the customers. And we can see multiple examples of this. For example, a study from, I think it is from McKinsey, it suggests that it basically shows that the market leaders in the respective industry, right, they spend 50% more on technology and innovation as compared to the average players in their respective segments. So there's a lot of focus that they give to the adoption of technology. Now here is another perspective for you. And this is known. Basically, we know Steve Jobs as a technological evangelist of sorts. But what he said is very important, that it is crucial to start off with the customer experience and then go back to technology, business models, whatever else that we want to do, right? And in certain ways, the whole omnichannel service actually falls somewhere in these concepts. Over a period of time, it's not new really. It started, I think, way back in 2010. So it's like maybe 12, 13 years old. But it has now gained a lot of prominence and in fact has become a necessity. Having said that, most of the organizations, only about 15 to 20% of the organizations have been able to achieve a certain level of maturity when it comes to omnichannel implementations. Many of the organizations are still struggling, and they are on their journey forward. So I know I'm speaking to a very erudite scholarly group here. So I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining what is omnichannel and all that, right? But just in a minute, essentially it is about providing a very consistent, uniform brand experience for the customers across the channels in a seamless way. That's how it is typically defined. And the main characteristics of it is the ability for the customers to switch the context across the channels on a real-time basis. For example, as a customer, I may start off purchase of a product or service. Maybe I'll search it on my mobile and find something interesting. I'll start off the purchase process, but then I'll leave it there, and then I move to my laptop, and there I'll fill the application further, and then I get stuck up somewhere. So then, I use the chat window chatbot over there, and that chatbot actually knows where I have reached in my application process, what I have searched, and then, it starts advising me. Maybe I am still stuck and I'm not very happy, so I call up the customer service agent, and he also knows, he or she also on the other side knows what I have done so far, what has been my interaction history and all that, and then, advises me appropriately. So likewise, actually, across multiple channels, be it the purely digital channels or assisted channels or the, physical channels, purely physical channels, my context, my interaction with the firm is completely available to all the channels. Now, while this sounds cool and this sounds simple enough, right? But there have been challenges. And the predominant challenge is the one of transformation and the risks associated with that. Most of the times, big organizations struggle with siloed, divisions or departments. They struggle with legacy systems, which are on very heterogeneous platform. They don't talk to each other. As a result of that, the data does not get transferred from one channel application or one channel platform to another channel platform, all those kinds of things, right? And that's where, to an extent, I would say my background comes in play. I mean, obviously, the advantages of the omnichannel, I don't have to repeat it because it is quite self-evident. So what I'll spend my rest of the time, or most of the rest of the time, I would say, is to share with you my lived experience, a personal story. Now, this is a Canadian bank, a large Canadian bank. It has some global footprint, but predominantly in Canada. And I'm winding the clock back to 2018. And the bank's mortgage business, the home lending business, was struggling big time. Not only their market share was low, but the margins they were acquiring from that business were low as well. And one of the prime reasons for that, the entire business was channeled through the agents and the broker systems, who would actually charge a huge commission from the bank for selling the bank's loan products to the home buyer segment. The other issue was bank had very poorly designed, very crappy digital interfaces on both their app side, on mobile side, on their website, and their customer servicing part, right? After this post-sale customer servicing, which is where the cash collections on a monthly basis, EMI payments, restructuring sometimes as and when required, or any other changes that are required happens. Those interfaces were also not that great. So in short, actually, they were struggling all over. And that's when the bank started this initiative called eHome to launch a completely digital experience for the home buying. It was on omnichannel with the omnichannel design obviously in mind, but it had various other elements to it also. And if you see today, in 2023 today, then we can say with certain pride, today 40% of the bank's new loans are initiated through the digital channels alone. So they don't go through the broker and the agent systems where the commission is lost out, right? The servicing area of the bank is tremendously improved, which is reflected in the NPS score of the bank, which is improved. The application processing on the digital channel, which used to take hours or sometimes days, and that was also problematic, can be completed by any newbie, any novice new customer in 20 minutes time, flat. And the approval and the disbursement of the funds for the loan, that can happen in 3 to 5 days time. Approval can happen in days time, and disbursal can happen in next couple of days or 3 to 4 days time, which used to take 3 to 4 times longer earlier. Now, all this is reflected into the brand perception of the bank, and today eHome is rated as one of the best online mortgage platform, digital platform that is available anywhere across the world. Now, how did we do it for the bank? And there were 3 or 4 design principles that we adopted. I don't want to go very technical into this discussion, but still I'll just state some of those principles. Right? The first is the bank itself actually took the initiative of breaking out of its siloed environments and creating an organization called platform organization, which was a kind of a, you can say a startup within a bank. I mean, this is a large bank, 150-year-old, so it's a legacy, heritage bank, right? But they created this organization with the sole intention that it will work at the cutting edge technological dimensions with various other aspects in mind. So that was the first big shift or first big design principle that was used. The second big design principle was the architecture itself, which we helped the bank to choose. And the API first was the strategy that was adopted. I think most of you would be familiar that in the modern day, the communication, if it happens across the heterogeneous platform through APIs, then that becomes very repeatable, that becomes very safe, secure, it becomes real time and all that stuff. And behind that API, there is whole architecture paradigm of smaller set of services called microservices, which are set up on cloud and all those kinds of good things, right? So that was the second big design principle that we adopted. The third design principle was the entire customer interaction layer. And we had our own, boutique, I would say, design firm, which helped in a lot of customer research, simplified experience design, creating the brand continuity for the banks, creating consistency across different segments in which they were operating and all that kind of stuff. And, a completely new set of apps, websites, all those digital channels were developed. And along with that, the other bells and whistles came in, like the chatbot concepts and the other stuff. Right? And the fourth one was the customer servicing side. Now, the customer servicing was a tricky part because, it was not really a very value-generative business for the banks. So they decided to outsource that completely to a firm which owned a cash and recovery platform in itself. So the firm had the cash and recovery platform, and they would actually have the BPO services on the top of their platform, which will be provided then to the customers of the bank and all that. So that business was taken care of in a very different fashion. So that's how the bank progressed on this, and the results are there to see, as I already said. Right? Now, this concept is now getting further extended, and we are right now working on various new areas for the banks. For example, the bank still doesn't have a very, I would say, very state-of-the-art customer data platform. So obviously they have a lot of customer data and they do use that. But the platform is still not very sophisticated, and that creates problems. There are inconsistencies across the customer information, incorrectness, sometimes the gaps are there, missing data, all of those challenges. And some of those challenges we are trying to fix through something called as customer data platforms that we are implementing. Similarly, we are also working on taking the same concept further to other markets of the bank, where the bank has existing footprint. For example, bank is present in the Caribbean areas and many of the Latin American markets as well. So we are implementing those concepts there. So likewise, actually, many of these things are getting further adopted, and I can say that a similar approach is being taken, although not through us directly, but this is basically based on the information that is available with us by many other mid to large size banks in US as well. So the concept of modernizing this into an omni-channel, fully functional platform is getting increasingly more traction. And some of the research work that I have come across, it suggests that in terms of the entire customer experience and in terms of the omni-channel, there is annually almost 10% growth in terms of budgeting that the that various organizations are making provision for. Of course, there may be blips and all that because of certain economic situations, but there is a consistent increase in the budgets for the experience design, for the omni-channel, and of course, associated with that, some of the cyber security aspects as well. Right. I think I'll move to the last part. So this is where we stand today in terms of where we are in terms of omnichannel, but what lies ahead, right? And there are 3-4 broad trends that we see in the market. I mean, obviously, no discussion these days is complete without the reference of AI, ML, and generative AI, and all those kinds of things. So that's definitely one of the technology pillars on which the space will further evolve. The second is the cloud data and network, another technological pillar. And that is also getting adoption very strongly. The hardware devices and new channels, for example, new channels like, say, AR, VR, metaverse. And in fact, it would be interesting for you to know that the first metaverse implementation in the Asia-Pacific region is done by a public sector bank in India, the Union Bank of India. And that is something where we have, again, been part of that journey. So, those kinds of channels are there. And the last is basically how best you can integrate across various technologies, create more of advisory and consulting-led sales and support rather than just assisted sales and support, right? The other area is also customer psychographics. This is new concept again, where not just, customer behavior is analyzed in a very quantified fashion, and to find out how best hyper-personalization can be achieved. So these are some of the trends, and they will pan out over a course of next maybe 5 to 10 years or 3 to 10 years. Let's see how this space evolves. I'll take a pause here, and are there any questions, or we've ran out of time, whatever it is, so it's okay. Thank you so much for listening to me patiently. Hope it was useful.
Thank you, Mr. Parasnis, for that very insightful presentation. May I request Mr. Ashwin Fernandez to kindly join us on stage to facilitate Mr. Parasnis.